Can I get your first and last name and how you spell them?
Sure. My name is Son, S-O-N, Bauer Lane, B-A-U-E-R-L-A-N-E.
And which organization are you with?
I currently volunteer with Meow out of Kirkland.
And what is your official position with Meow?
Foster.
Are you a foster parent or volunteer?
Foster parent volunteer.
Okay, great. So how did you initially get connected with Meow Cat Rescue?
That is a very good question. My daughter was looking to donate some things and do something for her birthday. And Island Cats tends to sell the Meow calendars, and we buy the calendars every single year. And so that year we decided, hey, let's raise money and and get donations for Meow. And so we took all the stuff in, and then that's when we met with Andy. And Andy started talking to me about the program as Amelia was holding Juanita and walking around and looking at all the things. And everything that she talked to me about, I just went, oh my gosh, that aligns with everything I'm looking for in partnering with a shelter to be a foster. And so I asked, may I put in an application, and would you be interested in letting me foster with you? And they said yes, and it was great.
So how long have you been a foster parent with Meow, and how long have you been a foster parent in total?
So with Meow, it's only actually been about, well, since April. But I had applied several years before, but we had to put fostering on hold because one of my cats was not well. Yeah, we'll get into that anyway. Now I've been fostering. I think I did the math, and it's been about 1996, I would say. But my first official foster was I was at college, and I worked as a camp counselor, and I was all done. And then the camp owner called me and said, "Hey, you love cats. I have a situation. Can you help me?" And that was my first set of bottle babies. And then I kind of was hooked from there, but I didn't realize that fostering was, a thing. And it wasn't until I moved to Bothell, and I was at the country village where Hooterville was. I mean, this is dating myself, and I overheard someone saying, we're low on fosters, we need help. And I said, oh, what does a foster do? And they told me, and I said, oh, well, I can help out with this one. Yeah, that's kind of how it starts out. As soon as you say that I can help with this one, and then you're hooked from there.
It's hard to stop.
It really is. It really, really is, because you see all of this out there in the world, and you want to be able to help all of them. And I finally got to the mindset, not to be cliche, but it's the whole starfish on the beach situation. I can't help all of the starfish, but I can help that one and that one and that one. And so I'm okay with that.
So you had said that you temporarily put fostering on hold when one of your cats was ill. It's hard to miss the sign behind you that says Captain Hermans Space Camp for Lost Floofs. Could you tell us the inspiration behind Captain Hermans Space Camp?
Yes. Yeah, I had 3 cats for a very, very long time, and had been very good about no foster fails, like really good. And we were on the H's, and right around the time that we got the H's, we had moved into a new house. It was the first set that my daughter, who's now 11, helped with, and she was learning, empathy and how to take care of kittens. The second of my 3 had just suddenly had a heart attack and passed away. And we had all been kind of slowly falling in love with 2 of the H's. And so we said, okay.
And let me stop you. When you say H's, you named your cats alphabetically.
Yes.
So it was A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you were on H.
The way that we keep track of how many fosters we've had is that we go by, we go in letter order. And by then we were to the H's.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry. So two of our friends took two of the H's, and then we kept the other two, one of which was Herman, the other one was Harriet. In 2018, I was very silly and I tried to put up a cat fence, like one of those cheap ones, by myself. Don't do that. Because unfortunately, Harriet got, figured out where the hole was, got out, and sadly was hit by a car, and we lost Harriet. Got it, absolutely got it. Since then, we hired a professional, and we have, an actual cat fence catio style thing. Don't try and DIY these things. That's my lesson.
I definitely won't.
Yeah. So Herman started to pee on things. And we thought, okay, well, maybe he has, as you think, let's take him to the vet, make sure he doesn't have crystals, the usual things that you go through when you check to see. It was Labor Day weekend. I will never forget, because it was just such a whirlwind of, you go in with this, oh, he's got a little pee issue, no problem, no worries. He was sitting there after they had taken his urine, and one of the vet techs noticed that he was breathing a little bit odd. She had just had experience with this, curiously enough, one of my fosters that she had adopted. So she was hypersensitive to these things. And she called the doctor over and said, I'm noticing this. Are you noticing this? And they both said, yes, look at that. Let's see, is he nervous or is there something going on? And they decided to go ahead and just take an x-ray just to make sure. That was when the doctor came out, very calm doctor, by the way. He's one of those that he's so calm in the way that he does. It's the first time, because we were friends, we'd worked together, that I'd ever seen concern and worry in his face. So I knew something was really wrong. And that was when he said, Herman has fluid on his lungs. It's pretty significant. We're going to find out what's going on right now. And again, a Friday on Labor Day weekend, it's serious, because they called in the cardiologist, they did all the things. So grateful, so thankful, because the team was just, anyway, I can't thank them enough. And sure enough, he had HCM, which is hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. You'd think I would know how to say it by now. And he was put on meds, and it was fairly progressed. And of course, I did my research. And my research told me that where he was, we were looking at 6 to 18 months. And then it was going to be a lot of pills, a lot of this, a lot of that. And the idea of letting go of a cat because, oh no, it's going to be expensive, just didn't sit well with our family. So we said, we're going to do what we need to do. And we, as I tell people, I looked at Herman and I said, I'm in it if you're in it. And right after we would get him drained, because that's what we would do, is we would take him into the vet. They would put a needle in him, they would drain all the fluid, and then he was happy, Mr. Bouncy cat. Very laid back, very sweet, sweet little fella. I mean, like I said, had him since he was 2-3 weeks old. He was bow-legged, he was funny, he'd sit on your shoulder, he was just sweetest little guy. I fell in love with him basically the first time he bow-legged walked across the floor. So, yeah, I mean, between the two of them. So that's what we did. And the mantra in the house became, Herman gets what Herman wants, and Herman gets what Herman needs. And that's just the life that we took on. Clicking along, we finally, from the beginning got his meds going, which was good. And then it was an average of usually about 5 to 6 weeks is when he would need to go in and get tapped. And then he would be okay, he'd jump around and everything was fine and dandy. So then we get to 2019, Christmas 2019. And he looked like he was having trouble breathing, and I looked at him and I looked at the calendar and went, ooh, you're about 2 weeks early. Well, maybe it's just because there are people visiting and you're a little more stressed and it's cost a little bit more, but let's get you in. So we took him in. You know how you get that feeling where you just know, you're like, okay, because again, I did the math. So I'm like 6 to 18 months. All right, we're looking at month, I guess at that point in time, 16. And as I put his little stocking up, I just it hit me. I knew, I was like, this is going to be the last time that his stocking goes on the cats of now. Because we have 2 sides. We have cats of now, and then we have cats of past. We honor them. It's a really sweet thing that we do. And we have, for fosters, because you've lost fosters in the past. But Anyway, so the team at Island Cats worked really hard. They consulted the cardiologist. Everybody was Team Herman, trying to get him with his meds back on track and everything else. But then 4 weeks became 3 weeks, 3 weeks became 2 weeks, and then it just finally got to a point where it was once a week. But the deal with the family was, if all it meant was that we were going to drain him, but he was still going to be running and playing and at least being part of the family and eating and enjoying life, then okay, that's what we're going to do. Again, if you're in it, I'm in it. That's how it's going to be. Towards the end of February, we started to suspect, because he kind of stopped eating. He was tired. He was definitely tired. And then in March, everybody talked, and we had taken the medicine as far as we could take him, and he was clearly living a life of just trying to breathe. And so that's when, on March 5th, we decided it was time to let him go. So where the space pod came from, because this is like, where did this come from, is in 2018, again, shortly after we were diagnosed with everything, Herman got toys and all kinds of things. He got all the treats. And one of the things that he was given by my dad was this big cat cave that looked like a space pod. And he climbed into it and stuck his head out. I have a picture of it, and that became his safe space. That's how we knew that he wasn't feeling good, or whenever we would travel or anything like that, he would climb into it in the car. He wouldn't ride in a carrier. He would just climb in a space pod. When we went to the vet, you know, I would hand over this big bulky space pod, and Dr. Marshall, Dr. Wilford would take it and say, okay, we're going to go take care of Captain Herman. And it just kind of became a thing. And that's where Captain Herman came from. And then there's Theo. So Theo was a little kitty that we found on the side of the road. He'd had a bad 6 months. We reached out to his owner. His owner told us how he got where he got to. And then she said, hey, can you please take care of him? I think your home is the best for him. And he proceeded to say thank you by throwing up a big giant thing of pine needles a week after we found him, and then going in for massive surgery to make sure there were more pine needles in there. He was old and crotchety, and he had back issues, and he hated to get brushed. And, you know, we always jokingly looked over, it's like, no, and Theo's here. I think he's just happy to be here. That was the joke. So when we started the whole stories of Captain Herman, we named everybody: First Officer Henson, Captain Herman, or yeah, Henson, Ensign Astrid, and then Engineer Theo. He's just happy to be here. And my daughter even made comic books. I mean, it was like a whole thing. And so on March 17th, we came downstairs, and there was Theo. Unfortunately, he was having a seizure, and it turned out that he had a blood clot. And so we had to let him go. So yeah, within 2 weeks. And the house was gutted. Absolutely gutted. Prior to Theo passing, I'd reached out to Meow and let them know, hey, I know I put a pause on things. We've lost Herman. So give us a couple weeks, and then we're happy to join the foster ranks again, if that's okay. And it was just after that that Andy reached out and said, oh, that's great. You know, we think we may have 1 or 2. We'll keep you posted. And then we lost Theo. And we took a little break. Again, reached out, let them know, and they said, hey, let us know when you're ready. But just so you know, we do have kind of a need right now if there's any chance you could help out. And in our family, we tried very hard to turn a negative into a positive. And that was when we said, well, we have the space. We all have the love. It would be a dishonor to not take somebody in this moment of need because we're grieving. So what can we do? And that was when we said, well, Captain Herman Space Camp. And we built Captain Herman Space Camp from there. This is the room, and we are in the process of decorating it, but the current recruits that we have eat the wallpaper. So we had to kind of put a hold on, we had to put a little bit of a hold on finishing the decorations, but we are in the process. We have little stickers, which some of them they ate, and all kinds of things. And we're just making the room up so that it's really cute and it's a fun place for kittens to be and play. And this particular batch, again, they're super special because they have a little parasite in their tummy. So everything, the normal things that I put in here, like the shelves and the cubbies and all that, all had to be scaled back Because when they're gone, we have to throw everything away.
Yeah.
So there's the story of Captain Herman. When Theo passed and Captain Herman's space camp came to be, my husband said, well, he's not Engineer Theo, he's Admiral Theo. So he got a postmortem major, you know, what's the word I'm looking for?
Promotion.
Thank you, promotion.
Yeah.
He got a major promotion. And that's how that all came to be.
I love how you said that turning away the foster kittens or cats would be dishonoring their memory. And I love that your family takes the negative and turns it into a positive. And I think for so many of us, 2020 was just one hit after another. And the interest in fostering has gone up because people are trying to take a negative and turn it into a positive. They're saying, hold on, I might lose my camera here because my dog has his foot tangled up in my cord. Oh, there's a baby. They're seeing that they're homebound, so they want to be able to spend that time with some foster animals who really need it. Could you tell somebody who maybe has never fostered before, what kind of a setup would you need to get going with fostering for the first time?
I thought, yeah. Honestly, if you have either a spare room or even a spare bathroom, chances are the space that you have is bigger than the cage that they're currently sitting in.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is make sure that you pet proof it. So whether you're fostering a kitten or fostering a dog, you know, go through pet proof it. Think like toddlers. Are they going to put that in their mouth? If you think they're going to put that in their mouth, they will put it in their mouth. Basic necessities, blankets, disinfecting wipes, vet wipes that you can get on Amazon. I use them all the time. Toys, bedding, food for cats, litter boxes, for dogs, you know, pee pads or whatever basic needs that dogs need. Enrichment activities, and I'm going to speak mostly about cats because that's what I foster. Wand toys, electronic toys, you know, something that just keeps them going and keeps their brains entertained. If you have the ability to be able to create levels in the room, that's especially good because cats like to be up high. They like to climb and show you, you know, hey, I'm the boss because I'm 10 feet up in the air and I'm looking down on you. It's what they do. Dempsey is especially good at it. Let's see what else. Yeah, exactly. See, that's their way of saying, that's their safe space and it's their way of saying I'm the boss. Is the higher
She's definitely the boss.
Yeah, exactly. What else? That's basically really for a starter kit is just make sure you have things to clean with, things that they can enjoy, blankets, toys, towels, they're a big one, and the ability to be able to wash those things on a fairly regular basis. That's a big one. So if you don't have a laundry room, then just have enough on hand that if you need to go to a laundromat or use your laundry in your building, you can do that because they're messy.
Yes. So for somebody that's never fostered before, what kind of a time commitment are you typically looking at? Maybe hours per day or how many weeks or months?
It usually depends on the age of the kitten. So the younger they are, the more time the commitment. Bottle babies, you're up every 2 to 3 hours feeding them just like, you know, you're a mom cat. You have to make them go potty. You need to do all the things. You're the mom. You are taking care of every single need. By the time they hit about 4 weeks, that's when they become interested in food and slurry. So they don't need as much of a time commitment. So instead of 2 to 3 hours, you're looking at more like 4 to 6 hours. And then by the time you hit the 6-week-old, the more time you can spend with them, the better, because they become acclimated, they become very friendly, they become very, you know, I love people. And so at that point in time, I'm not saying you can put them in a room with a box and call it good and only visit them once an hour. That's not a good idea. But you're no longer looking at that. I need to be and feeding them with the bottle every, you know, 4 to 6 hours, 2 to 3 hours. What I try to do in our house is we give them, once we figure out what their sleeping schedule is, we try to go in and I sit with them for an hour or so at a time and play with them until they all fall asleep. And then I'll give them a couple of hours. And then I come back in and I do the same thing. The older senior cats, which are great to foster as well, they usually are pretty happy with somebody just coming in and giving them a scritch every couple of hours and playing with them and engaging them. And so if you're a person who needs to work, 6 to 8 hours a day outside of the home, or even more than that, one of the not kittens is probably something that you would want to consider. Just because they're pretty happy to just sleep all day, and then when you come home, have a good scritch session for the rest of the evening, and they're happy.
Now, is there anything that you wish that you had known about fostering before you started fostering? Any advice that you could give to somebody that's becoming a foster parent for the first time?
The advice that I would give would be to do your research on the rescue that you're working with. Check to see if what you have as far as expectations of the support they're going to give you line up with what your expectation is. I've known a few people that have joined a foster and they've taken on cats or kittens, and then they come to find out that that particular foster doesn't supply food and they don't supply medical, and everything is on you. You basically are owning the cat until it's ready to go, and then they'll take it back. And there are some people who financially are comfortable with that, but then there are some people that financially that's not something that they can do. So make sure that that lines up. Make sure that you're comfortable with the type of support you get. So if you are 2 o'clock in the morning and you discover there's something going wrong with the kitten or the cat, who do I call? What's my support network? Do I have the ability to be able to, or permission to rush them to the vet if needed? And again, will those expenses be reimbursed? What's the policy? Again, I've heard of fosters where they didn't know and they suddenly found themselves with a $500 bill that they weren't expecting. Which for some people, they're like, okay, well, it is what it is. But then for other people, it's not a good situation. So make sure that the biggest thing is just really communicate with the foster that with the rescue that you're working with, and make sure that things line up as far as your expectations go and your support and your communication. Because there's nothing worse than being in the middle of something that's going with them, whether they're sick or anything like that, and then you discover, oh my gosh, I have to make these really hard decisions. When I was first not in college, but when I first started, I found myself in some of those situations, and I would not wish that on anyone, because we had I think it was my third batch, and they got Panluke, the whole lot of them, which is not it's not good. Yeah. 1 out of 7 made it. So yay, 1, because usually you don't even get 1. So that was good. But 6 times I had to make some really challenging decisions, but I didn't know until I was in it, so to speak.
Yeah, that's good to know that you need to be on the same page and have that support from the rescue organization that you're working with.
Absolutely. That's a big one. Also, what are their policies as far as special needs go? Because there are some rescues out there that they have to decide, do we have it financially to be able to support you with the special needs, or do we need to make some hard choices now? And again, make sure that you know where that rescue stands with those things, so that you can, if you find that you have a special needs cat, you can make your choices earlier rather than later about how you're going to move forward.
Now, your current fosters, you said that they have something intestinal going on. Do you? Yeah, they're cured now, but do you often take on medical cases? Do you feel like maybe you're contacted, since you've been fostering for so long, maybe you're contacted for some of the harder cases?
That is a very good question. With the rescue that I worked with before, yes, they tended to contact me if they had some failing bottle babies or things like that. Again, just because of some of the experience that I was able to bring. I had quite a few successes, quite a few not successes. Unfortunately, that is the nature of fostering. is that you do have, every now and then it happens. With this particular lot, the Meow reached out to me and they said, this is what they have and this is what they need. And do you feel that you're comfortable taking that on? And if not, it's totally fine. And well, we had an open room and we had the time. So I said, yeah, it sounds like a really good time to learn about something new. So
Yeah.
Lots of wiping of tushies.
Now, what has surprised you the most about being what has surprised you the most about being a foster parent?
The amount of stuff that's out there. The things, just when you think you've seen it all, you haven't seen it all. Like I had no idea that crypto was even a thing. This was new for me and everything that was involved with it. I think there was one season where I had some Khaleesi kitties, which again, I didn't know that Khaleesi was even a thing. It's an illness. It's like a respiratory and it causes, mouth sores and things like that. I was not educated on that. So I had 2 batches at that point in time, and I had kept them all very separate from one another. And I always washed my hands, but it was just one of those things that all it had to be was on your shirt and you not realizing that you hadn't brushed a certain area in your shirt. And the next thing you know, you've passed it on to the other room. So learning that just when you think that you have been incredibly hygienic, you discover that you can go further. So that's one, definitely. Learning the different types of personalities. You get used to a certain type of personality with your own. And then, you have a room full of 7 or 8 kittens, and you realize that even though they're all from the same, just like kids, even though they're all from the same mom, they all have different personalities. This one is laid back. This one is crazy. This one is this. So learning those would be some of the things. I think the biggest thing is that just when you think you know it all, you don't. And you really need to be open to learning, and going into every situation as though you have no idea what you're doing, because there's always something new. And
maybe going into the situation wondering, okay, what are these cats going to teach me?
Basically, yeah. I think it was probably about the 5th batch that I had that I started realizing, just because I bottle fed before doesn't mean these guys are going to be the same. And as technology and things, move forward, like the nipples for bottle babies that we used 10, 15 years ago are very different than the ones that you find now. There's a new one out that is like a game changer. And as soon as we all discovered it, and I say we all, like a lot of other foster moms that I talk to, they're like, have you discovered the miracle nipple? Oh my gosh, game changer. Yeah. No more having to, try and X the top of the nipple and hope that you get it just right. You didn't have to do that anymore, which was great. So that's the other one, is learning that there's always going to be someone out there who's thinking about the challenges you've had and looking for a way to find a solution. Thank you, miracle nipple people.
And do you have any favorite foster stories from all of your years of fostering? Maybe one favorite story.
Oh my gosh, I have many. I think I'll touch on the 2 that I was thinking about last night, if that's okay. So yeah. One would have to be Harriet. She was a scamp. She was a lady and a sweetie, but she was a scamp. And I remember one day I was working in the kitchen, I was doing something, and I heard this thump, thump, and I thought, what in the world? And I ran right around the corner, and I look, and on the floor is poor little Hugo, and he's shaking his head, and obviously something has happened. And what I figured out is that he must have gone over the banister, which we have since fixed that. That doesn't happen anymore. But, and I look up, and there's little Harriet. And as I tell people, I'm not saying she did, I'm not saying she didn't, but somehow he wound up on the floor. But just the way she looked was like, what? So that one I always remember, and it cracks me up, especially since Herman was sitting right behind her like the innocent, what, nothing happened here. It was very cute. We've since put things on the banister where kittens can't get through. But that was my learning moment. There you go, is what do you do with fosters and banisters when you allow them to go into general population? And then the other one is we had this little one named Nadia, and Nadia, bless her little heart, she had all the things. She came to me at about 3 days old, is what they think it was, because she still had a little bit of her umbilical cord. And the theory was that she had been dropped by a bird into a yard, and a vet found her, took her to the rescue I was working with at the time. And then the rescue reached out to me and said, hey, would you be up for taking one this young? That was when I joined Cats of Bothell, by the way, because I started posting daily about Nadia and saying, look, I'm posting this because with ones this young, every day is a celebration. Every day is, we made it, yay, because fading kitten syndromes and bottle babies is really, you know, it happens a lot. So as she began to grow and mature, we started to realize that maybe there was a little bit more damage done to this poor little one than we thought. And it turns out she had some neurological issues. She had some visual issues. She was, she had the sleep disorder where if she got excited, she just fell asleep. It was all very cute. Like I'd be sitting there holding her and she'd be very excited at the vet and then she'd just clunk right out. Yeah, and or she'd be eating and she'd conk right out. But it took her a while. We realized that she was slow. There were some problems there. So things that she should have been doing at 4 weeks, she wasn't doing. And so we finally get to 6 weeks old. Well, by the time kittens are 6 weeks old, they know how to run. I mean, they are all over the place. They're here, they're here, they're. And on this particular occasion, we looked over and she figured out how to run. And my husband looked at her because she was running like the wind, up the hall and down the hall and around in circles and very excited. And so my husband jokingly looks at her and is like, look, I'm a cheetah. And at that exact moment, she didn't figure out when to stop and she went bam, right into the door. And it was sad, but at the same time, she just shook her head and then she took off again. I'm a cheetah. And then she ran into another wall. But that was how she learned perception and how to stop. And trust me, she got lots of hugs and kisses afterwards, but it's just that moment of watching her, she figured out how to run. And then I'm a cheetah, boom. So that's one of my stories that I love. I have like tons from lots and lots. Like every letter that we've had, there is something that we've looked at and thought, oh my gosh, you remember when Kitty Kitty did this? And yeah.
Now, if somebody sees this and they think, this all sounds wonderful, I think I would like to be a foster parent, would you recommend that they just do some research, find a rescue that they think would work for them and reach out to the rescue and initiate an application and get started with the process?
Yeah, absolutely. And don't feel like they have to know everything. A lot of the rescues offer classes that teach you what you need to know to be able to be a foster parent. Not as many right now, but under normal circumstances, most of the larger rescues and the smaller rescues all offer either in-person or online classes that teach you about bottle feeding, that teach you about, 6-week-old, that teach you about 8-week-old, that teach you about senior care. So don't feel like, oh, I don't know anything about cats, but gosh, I'd sure love to foster. Don't let that hold you back. Take the leap, reach out, fill out the application. If you have the right heart and you have the right desire, the rescue will help cultivate you and give you the information you need to be successful.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us for our Limelight lesson all about fostering. And this has been Tracy and Holly with the Limelight Pet Project, and we shine the light on harder to adopt pets and provide Limelight lessons because these stories are worth telling.